Hi there. Welcome to the Healing Link. This is Eileen O'Toole, and I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to read to you a passage from Eileen McKusick's book, Electric Body, Electric Health. This is the latest book that she put out, all about the using the electromagnetism within you and around you to rewire, recharge, and to raise your voltage. And Ms. McKusick developed a particular kind of tuning fork that works on your auric field, where we have also we also carry our traumas of our life and of our generation. So this is chapter 3, and it's called Electric Universe, Electric You, and I hope you enjoy it. One of the things that makes biofield tuning rather difficult to explain is that it encompasses two additional states of matter beyond solid, liquid, and gas. These are plasma, the fourth state of matter that is proven and scientifically accepted, and a hypothetical fifth state of matter, the ether, that has either been the subject of scientific debate, that has been the subject of scientific debate for centuries. We're going to explore in depth what these states of matter are, how they together comprise our electromagnetic environment, and why they are directly relevant to our experience of everyday life. And remember, we are still talking about energy, electromagnetism, and electricity. We're just getting more specific with our language and grounding our understanding of energy in an exploration of the vehicles of its transmission. Why does this matter? Is it just empty intellectualizing? It matters because when we widen our perspective on the nature of reality and the way things are, we change the possibilities and opportunities that are available to us. The real magic and abundance of life is in this interconnectivity. And that connectivity is happening, from my perspective, through the mediums of plasma and ether. We can tap into this collective electromagnetic field and find support and possibilities and energy and potential there. Cosmology, the big picture. But before we get into plasma and ether, let's zoom out and take a look at our larger cosmological story. Cosmology is the overarching story of life itself, the assumptions about reality that we rarely question. The discovery of a different cosmological story was the discovery that changed everything for me. Our current cultural secular Big Bang cosmology goes something like this. In the beginning, there was nothing, which, for no reason, suddenly exploded one day. After it exploded, for no particular reason, it achieved a high degree of order. Ever since then, entropy, dissipation, dissolution, has been the dominant force. This clockwork space, which is winding down, is a full mysterious dark energy and dark matter. Space is an empty, cold vacuum. No one can hear you because sound doesn't travel through space. And besides, we're probably the only ones here, out in this meaningless corner of our galaxy. Gravity pulls us down, and entropy rips us apart. This is the very dark, heavy, disconnected, and even sad view of the whole thing. But what is important to understand is that this worldview came into being before we had the Hubble and other incredible technologies that could really feel and see into space, and whose findings have begun to paint a very different picture of what's going on in the cosmos. Our cosmological story, it would seem, is evolving. Scientists are now finding that space is electric, and that our sun, rather than being an isolated thermonuclear furnace that is constantly burning itself out, is electrically connected through plasma to the rest of the electric universe. We are discovering that space isn't empty after all. It is filled with plasma of varying densities and formation, and sound waves travel through plasma. They are called Alfvén waves. Plasma forms ribbons, and sound travels through these ribbons that connect galaxies. As it turns out, entropy isn't the only game in town. Centropy, also called negative entropy or negentropy, also exists. Even though we observe this descent into chaos in space and the world around us, we also observe the continual rising of order. Levity is also a thing. Gravity isn't just a force pulling us downwards. We now know that sound waves fall upwards, that there is actually a force of nature that goes up, not just down. There is an abundant evidence that sound has been and can be used for levitating objects. Try listening to some calypso music on steel drums. You can feel the levity in your body. From this perspective, the universe is a living, connected electrical organism made up of all light we can and cannot see, continually changing its shape and expression as entropy and centropy do their continual dance of destruction and creation. And we are part of that illuminated, eternal, mind-boggling amazingness. Plasma, the fourth state of matter. Let's learn a little bit more about plasma, a state of matter that you most likely never heard about in school. It's a curious thing that many people have never heard of plasma, which comprises as much as 99.99% of the known universe, according to some sources. Plasma is defined as the fourth state of matter. It consists of gas of ions, atoms, that have some of their orbital electrons removed, and free electrons. Electrons and ions are free-floating, which means that the gas is electrically conductive and responds strongly to electromagnetic fields. Our other three known states of matter all arise from, or more technically condensed from, plasma. This unorganized matter, elementary matter, and that was from Webster's 1913 edition dictionary, condenses into gas, which condenses into liquid, which condenses into solid, but everything begins as plasma. Well, technically, in my humble opinion, ether gives rise to plasma, but we'll get to that later. The way plasma behaves informs the way physical matter forms. Plasma is all around us. The environment we live in is full of plasma. We live in a fluid electromagnetic environment. When you breathe in plasma. You are breathing in air that is full of electricity and life. When you're breathing in coastal ocean air that's full of airborne charge, that's what we call negative ions, you're breathing in even more plasma. Space is made up of plasma. Nebulas are a plasma. Lightning is a plasma. Solar wind is a plasma. The northern lights are a plasma. A Tesla globe is a plasma. We live in a plasma environment. We don't just breathe in oxygen, we breathe in electricity too. Each oxygen molecule carries 4 free electrons, which bind to the ions in the hemoglobin of our blood and are then dropped off at cells, providing the body with a constant flow of electrical juice. Water is a plasma, as Dr. Gerald Pollack proposes in the 4th phase of water, meaning that water is electromagnetic. Our blood and all of the fluids in our bodies are electrically charged. The electrified water in our bodies actually form a gel state. the degree of charge presented informing how DNA gets expressed. Fire is a plasma. NASA scientists are finally talking about plasma in space after years of referring to it as hot gas. Stanford and other Ivy League universities have plasma physics labs. We rely on medical innovations that use plasma. Cold plasma has shown great promise for disinfections. Plasma is a growth market at the moment. If investing is your thing, consider finding an industry that's utilizing plasma, and there are lots now, and putting your money there. The sun that heats the Earth is made up of plasma. Solar wind isn't just a hot gas. It's a stream of electrically charged particles, plasma, that's hitting the Earth's uppermost part of the atmosphere, the magnosphere, that buffers this energy and distributes it around the outer boundary of our planet's atmosphere. This isn't new or radical information. Kirsten Birkeland, a Norwegian scientist who studied the Northern Lights, postulated this theory in the early 1900s, and it was nominated for 7 Nobel Prizes, though he was ridiculed until actual proof came in. I recently read in an article from Scientific American, published in 1965, that said the following: since 1958, direct measurements of our outer reaches of the Earth's field by means of artificial satellites and rocket probes have convinced many geophysicists that the simple picture of that magnetic field must be drastically revised. Far from being free of external influences, the geomagnetic field is constantly buffered by a wind of electrically charged particles emanating from the sun, distorted by the electric currents circulating in the radiation belt that girdles the Earth. Scientists have known about electric currents in space for a long time, but somehow it's never quite made it into our worldview. Continual planet-wide lightning strikes discharged and ground the energy. Space is an electrical environment that's filled with plasma. In some places, it's very diffused. In others, like stars, it becomes very dense. Voyager 2, Hubble, and other space probes have been providing us with lots of information about plasma in the last decade. In 2018, the Voyager 2 space probe moved through the equivalent of our magnosphere, the Sun's heliosphere. It actually slowed down as it traversed this wall of dense hot plasma that creates the outer boundary of the plasmic bubble that contains our solar system. A report of Voyager 2's observation published in the Journal of Nature's Astronomy revealed this fiery wall to be up to be 89,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Plasma is the stuff of stars, is also what makes up these human systems of ours. Remember, it is the same electricity of the sun and lightning that is powering the electric devices that's used to jumpstart our electric hearts when they stop. My hypothesis is that human biofield is also a plasma, but more specifically, a bioplasma. What is bioplasma? It is the diffuse magnetic fluid around any living thing, redefined by a double-layer plasma membrane at its outer boundary. These living fields were described by Yale professor Harold Saxton Burr as L fields, and he studied them extensively in the 40s and the 50s with various devices set up around Yale campus. The idea was that all life forms have a living field around them is nothing new. However, many of us have also heard that there is no such thing as a field. But as we will see, the assertion goes against observation and basic laws of physics. Like anything in nature, electromagnetic fields tend to behave fractally. what they are on what they are on one level of scale, they are on another level of scale. As above, so below. This is the macrocosm and the microcosm. The human biofield and our electric magnetic fields are like fractals rendering of the Earth's magnosphere and the Sun's heliosphere. The double-layered plasma membrane at the outer boundary that protects the organism. In the human biofield, that outer boundary creates the dynamic standing waves that hold information in the field. Just like Voyager 1 and 2 slowed down as they went through the heliosphere due to the resistance caused by the greater density of energy, our tuning forks can also perceive this density at the outer boundary of the field. The waves bounce off the inner boundary of electrical charge, in the same way radio waves bounce off the inner boundary of the ionosphere. Every cell and organ in the body has its own field, in addition to being part of the group field of the human body. For many of you, this may be the first time you've ever heard of plasma. Why is it that most of us never learn about this important and ubiquitous state of matter, one that is accepted and studied by Harvard and Stanford scientists? While the concept of ether has been actively dismissed and allegedly debunked, plasma, to me, has simply been ignored. We know it exists. We just haven't found a place for it in our larger cosmological framework. Let us take a different cosmological framework, one that acknowledges plasma and its place in our universe. And we'll leave it there. Thanks for clicking in. I'll return with the rest of this chapter, and then the chapter on ether. And we'll continue looking and listening to the written word about sound, and how sound can heal us, can help us, and can kill us. Thanks.